Hey guys, this is Tauna, and today we have probably one of the most exciting precons from Duskmourn. I think out of all of them, this is the one that I heard probably the most excitement around, tied to the Velgavoth one, around this new Aminatu, because it is really, really cool. It is based around, top decking, based around Miracle tied into that, as well as some graveyard stuff, some enchantments. It is really cool. I absolutely love this one. I am still on the fence as to whether I'm going to get in Duskmourn precons or anything. I am very considering, getting this one or the Zamone one currently. Both are really cool. If you're someone out there that wants to sponsor a video, get me the Duskmourn precons. I will love you forever, and you can have as many sponsored videos as you want. So before we get into it though, I need to say I'm sorry. I was wrong, which is something you will rarely hear from any YouTuber. I was wrong. I specifically said in this video here about a whole bunch of cards that they would not reprint within the Aminatu deck. They went and reprinted some of them. It is very, very surprising. One I'm really shocked that that they actually reprinted in here. It is a Universes Within card of a Secret Lair, Universes Beyond. It suits the deck so well. I just didn't think that they would ever reprint it. So I'm amazed. I'm really happy. And it's kind of showing again that they're kind of pushing the limits on these precons now. But make sure you subscribe and you won't miss amazing videos like this one or the one that you're watching right now. So let's talk about the new cards first. First up, we have the new Aminatu Veil Piercer. So she is at the beginning of your upkeep, Surveil 2, which is take the top two, put one into, you can put him both into your graveyard, one at the top, one into your graveyard, whatever, both at the top. You can choose, whether they go into the graveyard or stay at the top of your deck. And you can also rearrange them so you can set up for the next part, which is each enchantment card in your hand has Miracle. So that means when you first draw it and look at it, if it's an enchantment, its miracle cost will be reduced, like its mana cost reduced by 4 generic mana. So essentially every single enchantment, the first time you draw it, not even just on your turn, mind you, its cost is going to be reduced by 4 as long as it's an enchantment. That applies to enchantments, enchantment creatures as well. If you somehow make anything else an enchantment, it's that too. And then we've got the secondary commander here, which is the Master of Keys. This one was actually really cool within the thing they're talking about, that he was around kind of escape rooms and stuff. I love that, which means that, we'll get to the next part down here. So he's got flying. He has X cost, and when he enters, you put X 1/1 counters on him and mill twice X cards. Now, one thing I really love is commanders that have X in their mana cost, because that means that 2 extra that you have to pay if it comes back, because of command attacks, it's adding in to whatever it's doing. So that 2 extra in here adds into the +1/+1s you're putting on, and the mill is really cool. Each enchantment card in your graveyard has escape, and the escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost plus 3 other cards from your graveyard. So that's really cool, because it means that you are going to be able to bring all those enchantments that somehow end up in your graveyard, whether it's from surveilling, whether it's from the mill equip here, or whether it's just from, however, removal. They all are able to still be played because they all have escape. All you need to do is pay its mana cost plus 3, exile 3 cards. So some of the other new cards, we've got a couple new miracle cards. One here is Redress Fate, which is return all artifacts and enchantments from your graveyard to the battlefield for 4. I love the art of this too. I love it. Aminatu is just such an awesome character. I love the fact that they brought her back for this. We've also got Metamorphosis Fanatic here, which has lifelink, and then when it enters, return up to 1 target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield with a lifelink counter on it. I half expected this to say, finality counter on it, but no, luckily. And it's also got Miracle, 1 and a black. So, both of these, the first time you top deck it, you're going to be able to play it cheaply. We've got a new room. We've got actually 2 new rooms. So this one is all non-land permanents you control and permanent spells you control are enchantments in addition to their other types. I'm a little bit disappointed that this isn't, permanent like permanent cards, like cards in your hand, that would have been really great, because it means that, you know, any lands and all that kind of stuff is all going to proc that, you know, being enchantments, land, the Eerie / Constellation and stuff. But, you know, it's just non-lands on the thing, and then permanent spells that you control. And then whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to that spell's mana value on up to one target creature. So that means that, you know, you're going to be able to buff up your stuff based on the spell's mana cost. Now, that's also really great because it's the spell's mana cost, like mana value, not your miracle that you're paying. So if you're discounting it by 4, you're still getting that full kind of boom, huge amount of +1/+1s onto stuff. We've got Cramped Vents, which is whenever you unlock it, it deals 6 damage to a target creature an opponent controls, and then you gain life equal to excess damage. And then Access Maze over here. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a spell from your hand by playing life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. That's really cool too. You know, cheat stuff out with paying life instead of mana here. And then I think this part here is kind of the more disappointing one, but it's also relatively easy to get it. It's kind of like a double bolt that you can life gain from. We've got Soaring Lightbringer, which gives all your enchantment creatures flying, as well as the second bit here, which is whenever you attack a player, you get to create a 1/1 white enchantment, a white glimmer enchantment creature that's tapped and attacking that player. Really great, because each of these, you know, 1/1 white glimmers are all going to proc any, you know, Eerie, Constellation. Fear of Sleep Paralysis makes it so that whenever an enchantment enters or you fully unlock a room, you get to tap one target creature and put a stun counter on it. But then stun counters can't be removed. Whatever you put a stun counter on is just permanently stunned until they remove your Fear of Sleep Paralysis. That is, 1, so thematic, 2, just really crazy great. We've got Ancient Cellarborn, which is probably Cellarspawn, which is probably my favorite new card. Each spell you cast as a demon, horror, or nightmare costs 1 less, and as you can imagine, there's a bunch in here. But this next part, whenever you cast a spell, if the amount of mana spent to cast it is less than its mana value, target opponent loses life equal to the difference. I need this for my Abaddon Cascade deck. You know, just any deck that is casting spells for less than whatever. In a Rakdos deck, like Rakdos, Lord of Riots, where you're reducing the mana cost of casting your creatures. This is just going to deal so much damage. We got Phenomenon Investigators, which is probably the one that I'm most like, why is this in here? When it enters, you get to choose believe or doubt. So it's kind of like you know how you've got like Outpost Siege, where you choose Khans or Dragons. It's kind of like that. It's like a permanent ability that is on it. So whenever a non-token creature you control dies, create a 2/2 black horror enchantment creature token. Really cool. And then at the beginning of your end step, you may return a non-land permanent you own to your hand if you do draw a card. So that one there, I'm a little bit meh on. I guess it's a way to kind of get ETBs over and over again, but I like this kind of believe version of it. Personally, I think this is a card that I'll potentially drop from the deck, but it's not too bad. All right, reprints. We've got a bunch of enchantment synergy. So, you know, reduce the cost of your enchantments, return enchantments from your graveyard to your hand. Whenever you cast an enchantment, draw a card. Whenever you cast an enchantment, whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, you may create a token that's a copy of it. And then wow, I'm really shocked by Moonblessed Cleric being in here. That is a tutor within a Precon. I think that they're being a little bit like, they don't usually do tutors within Precons, right? Like there's been a couple times, but not like this. So I'm really happy about that one. And then we've got Doomwake Giant. Whenever it or another enchantment enters, creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. We're going to get a lot of enchantments out. So we're going to get a lot of really great stuff from this. We've got some top deck stuff that allows us to manipulate the top deck to let Imanatu do her thing, as well as be able to kind of, you know, cheat some stuff out potentially in the future. Some big enchants. These are the huge enchants that we're going to be casting for 4 less. So that means an extravagant replication is 2 blue mana, which is bonkers. Now, extravagant replication and one with the multiverse were both cards that I said they were not going to reprint in here because, you know, I did not expect it, but they are insanely great reprints in here and suit the deck so well. We've got life insurance as well to be able to create some treasures, and you know, we can extort with it in the future too. We've got a couple of different miracle things for if you top deck them, then you're able to miracle them. If you don't, you know, draw an enchantment, but they're important to have because it's going to be, you know, some big removal, or create a whole bunch of white angels, some stack/pillow fort stuff in regards to a couple different enchantments in here, like monologue tax and sphere of safety, and enchantment creatures. Now the other 2, actually no, I think it was 3. I said that they would not reprint. I said they would not reprint Arvinox and Athreos. I did not expect them to reprint either of those 2, but the big one here is Arvinox. As I said before, this is a secret lair card that they made a Universes Within version of, right? So technically, you know, it's the same as the creature from the Upside Down within the Stranger Things secret lair. I did not expect them to reprint this. It's so good. Especially in this deck where you can cheat it out for, you know, 3 black mana. Athreos allowing you to be able to save your creatures. I, again, didn't expect that. Or Demon of Fate's Design allowing you to be able to cast something, cast an enchantment for just paying life. We've got some graveyard synergy here too, which is really great. Whenever, you know, you can return stuff from your graveyard back to either the top of your deck, which allows you to miracle it at instant speed, because you can do this, you know, at the end of someone's turn. Do it, chuck an enchantment on the top, and then draw it on your next turn. And we got Spirit Sister's Call here at the beginning of your end step. Choose a target permanent in your graveyard. You can sacrifice a permanent that can shares a card type with it, and then you get to return that back to the battlefield. Now, unfortunately, it does have, whenever it leaves the battlefield afterwards, it gets exiled, but it's a good way to be able to cycle back in some nice enchants that might have been removed. Some valuable reprints here. So these are the really great reprints, in my opinion. Ink Shield being reprinted here is insanely good. Like a great protection. You know, you can just let things through and then take all that damage, but prevent it with Ink Shield, and boom, you're going to create so many black Inklings. Hall of Heliod, really great. Ondu, Spirit Dancer, Athreos, Monologue Tax, Extravagant, one with the multiverse, and they also reprinted the black-blue Pain Land as well, which is great. So as for the mana base, we've got a lot of pain, like I think all the pain lands that we needed in here. We've got the bounce lands too. We've got Helmare Deaths, which allows us to be able to like manipulate the top deck. Again, Hall of Heliod Generosity is so good in this deck because it is literally just set up your next turn from your graveyard. Boom. We've got the Tainted lands in here, which are good too. We've got these Scry lands as well to be able to kind of, you know, do that manipulation of the top deck. Now, unfortunately, we do have the Thriving lands in here, which aren't all that great, but we can't all be winners. There are some really great lands in here. There's stuff that we're going to have to change, obviously, as with most precons, but I think in regards to precons, it's not a bad mana base. Getting the Pain lands in here is really good. All right, so some base set cards that I'm surprised weren't in it. The Inquisitive Glimmer. This is essentially going to allow you to do just so much easier. Enchantment spells cost 1 less to cast, and then unlocks cost 1 less too. We've got Appendage Amalgam here. Whenever it attacks, Surveil 1, we allow it to be able to kind of, you know, set up the top there. Enduring Curiosity. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So while this is obviously, you know, going a little bit against our kind of wanting to top deck stuff, we can manipulate the top deck later on. And, you know, it's just card draw. If we get above that 7 cards in our hand, we can discard something into the graveyard, and then we've got ways to be able to bring it back anyway. But the better part is that when it dies, it's going to return to the battlefield as an enchantment. We've then got Fear of Infinity. This, you can actually play it from your graveyard. Return it to your graveyard, to your hand from the graveyard whenever an enchantment you control enters, or whenever you fully unlock a room. Really good in this deck. So talking about some cards that I would preliminary add. Now, some of these are rather expensive, but I think that they are rather great. We've got Mirror Room and Fractured Realm. Double all of the triggers. If you did not know, the Constellation / Eerie is a triggered ability. Double all of those. We've got Restricted Office here. Destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater if we need a board wipe. But then the better part, the Lecture Hall here, is other permanents you control have hexproof. That is so good. Like, we're going to have a lot of enchantments out. There is some, but not a lot of mass enchantment removal. Most people are going to single target removal your enchantments. Giving them hexproof is really great. Ristic Study allows you to be able to draw cards on other people's turns, and then you can miracle stuff in. If you've got some way to be able to play stuff at instant speed, play enchantments at instant speed, then you can miracle it in, because miracle is just whenever you draw a card that is the first card for that turn. Not your turn, that turn. We've got Victor, great, Eerie, Surveil 2, then discard a card, choose an opponent, each opponent discards a card for the second time an enchantment enters, and then the third time, get a creature from your graveyard, put it back onto the battlefield. Doesn't even have a bloody finality counter on it. Temporal Mastery, miracle it for 2, take an extra turn. Enchanted Evening, this is one that Cat's Eye suggested here. All permanents are enchantments in addition to their other types. This includes lands. That means your lands will trigger all of your Eerie's and stuff. It's so great. It also means that opponent stuff is enchantments, which means that if they use a mass enchantment removal, they are going to be wiping their own board, wiping all of their own lands and stuff. It does apply to other people, so it's really interesting and it could be really cool to see. A couple others, Baneful Omen here. At the beginning of your end step, reveal the top card of your library, and then each opponent loses life equal to that card's converted mana cost. So if you reveal a room, its converted mana cost is equal to both sides of the card. So go back to this example. This is 3 plus 7. Its converted mana cost is 10. Each opponent is losing 10 life. But the better part about this is it's not then draw that card either. So you could have set this up earlier to be able to top deck something later on in a future turn, and boom, you're dealing 10 freaking damage. And then next turn, you get to top deck it with Aminatu, play it for its miracle cost. Omniscience. This is a really, really great card if you pull it off in a normal game, but imagine if it only costs 6 instead of 10. Dance of the Manse, I think that's how it's pronounced. You get to return artifacts / non-aura enchantments, which we've got a lot of, from the graveyard to the battlefield. Now, if we cast this for 8, X is 6 plus the 2, boom, we're going to return so much stuff to from the graveyard to the battlefield, and now they're all going to be 4/4 creatures in addition. We've got Starfield of Nyx, return something from the return enchantment from the graveyard to our battlefield at the beginning of our upkeep. Technically, we can stack that with the Surveil, so we Surveil first, chuck something in, boom, and then if we've got this part, everything that's an enchantment is now active as a creature. Finally, I've got a lot of top deck ones in here. I'm not going to go through them all, but most of them are kind of instant speed stuff you can do. Cat's Eye suggestion though, so if you play against this, go yell at him. He suggested Dovescape. Whenever a player plays a non-creature spell, counter it. That player puts X11 white and blue birds tokens with flying into play, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. Now, this is obviously going to counter all our enchantments and everything like that. It's also not going to be able to be removed unless they've got a creature that does it, but thanks to Starfield of Nyx and stuff, we can just bring our enchantments back anyway. Anything that is, you're not playing it from your graveyard, you're just putting it from the graveyard into the battlefield. It's going to be amazing. So I'd love to hear from you guys, what you guys think. I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and goodbye.